Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Aaron Challoner, aka the CHALL, your YouTube sporting journalist, and today is another episode of the Matchday Launch Show. We've got a packed show for you guys today, and here is what's coming up this week. I'll be looking at the history of Doncaster's opponents this weekend, AFC Wimbledon. I'll be reviewing the Lincoln City Cup match with my play ratings and final thoughts. I'll be predicting the rest of the games for match week 3 in Sky Bet League 2. And I'll be looking ahead to the trip to Plough Lane with George from the 9 Years podcast. Let's hope it's a better performance than Tuesday, eh lads? All that and so much more is coming up this year on the Matchday Launch Show. But let's get started with the elephant in the room. Lincoln City Carabao Cup, third time in a 4-year spell being knocked out in round 1. Knocked out in round 1 3 out of 4 in the last 4 times. I see it from both sides. I mean, on the one hand, it's an embarrassing performance and Lincoln deserve the win. But on the other hand, is it a cup competition that we need to win or we have a desire to win? Probably not. You know, we weren't going to win it anyway. You know, even if you get to round 3, 4, 5, whatever, you know, we got to the quarterfinal. Our milestone in this competition is the quarterfinals in 2005, and arguably, I would say we were run better back then. Yeah, I think a lot of fans would agree with that. But you know, you get what I mean. Like, we're not going to win the competition. Not when you've got your Guardiolas, your Klopps, your Artetas, your Ten Hags, if they make it that far, your Tuchels, Rodgers, all them teams that are going to be right up there at the end of the Carabao Cup. We're not going to win the Carabao Cup. It's as simple as that. Unless we go on some kind of dream run in the next few years or down the line. Unless we have a fairy tale, unless we have a Leicester-type fairy tale story where you just never predict it's going to happen, then we're not going to win the Carabao Cup. Simple as that. Same with the FA Cup. Papiton's trophy, a little bit more debatable, but it depends what kind of team's going to be up there in the final. But no, for me, it's one less game every Tuesday to think about, or Wednesday. It's one less game to think about. It is one less fixture to deal with our injuries, and we do have a bit of injury updates, which we will bring you on this show throughout the show. And for me, I just feel like but in the game itself, I mean, you know, put the actual reasoning behind the result to one side. You know, we don't need the Carabao Cup. We don't particularly need it. I would take promotion and I would take automatic promotion or promotion of any kind and no cup run over a huge cup run in the Carabao or the FA. Like, you're talking quarterfinals, semi-finals, but no promotion. I would rather take the promotion and no cup run. Simple as that. Promotion's the key here. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not a massive loss to the schedule. However, the performance can't be erased, the performance can't be forgotten, the performance can't be just excused just because it's not an important competition. Gary McSheffrey came out and he said he doesn't want to take the competition seriously, the cup competition seriously, but that performance did not tell me we wanted to take it seriously. We pretty much played the 4-4-2 diamond again, which, you know, Agard and Andrews up front, you got your Tomlin as your cam, you got Rowe, Harrison, Biggins, Liam Ravenhill, your back four, your goalkeeper. So, for me, again, I just think we were far too narrow. I talked to, now people don't know this, but I talked to Josh Andrews. I think it was before before he went in during the Lincoln match. And I said to him, the main thing I said about you, Josh, was if you play with wingers and you play with that wing play, you'll be utilised better as a target man striker. And he said, I agree, mate. Again, it just didn't feel like we utilised the wings a lot more. It just felt like we were going sideways, backwards, route one, and hope for the best. It's a tactic that does not work. And, you know, again, you've got to put that down to multiple reasons. You've got to put it down to the fact there's still key players missing. Your Luke Molineux, your John Taylors, your Aidan Barlows, you know, we've got another player out now as well. Ben Close, slowly but surely coming back. We are missing players, and we're still maybe 1 or 2 low knees off a complete window. So you know, I can get it from that perspective that McSheffrey maybe doesn't have the wingers to work with. But I would argue on the other side. I would actually argue on the other side and think, well, hang on a second. On the other side, you've got Tomonga Kalea to use, who, by the way, when he came on the pitch, actually did better than some of the other players. Charlie Seaman. Now, I wouldn't have said start Charlie Seaman, but my God, if you want to start with wingers against Wimbledon on Saturday, I would argue putting him in, because he looked like he wanted it. He looked like he wanted it. He came out with... He was one of the better players that came out with some kind of performance. For me, I think it's given McSheffrey a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of a selection headache, because you've got Hurst, you've got Kalea, and you've got Seaman. You've got three wingers there. Seaman's a right back, but you know he can play wing. You've got three players that can play on the wing, plus Rowe, that's four. No excuse for me to not use the wing play. Yes, it might not be the best wing play, but it's some kind of wing play. As long as you've got options there, hopefully we will have options before the end of the window, including hopefully Ross McCausland. Fingers crossed there'll be movements on that deal. And maybe a second loanee, whether that's a winger or a fullback winger, or like a Charlie Seaman type player who can play fullback and winger. I don't know. I mean, there's a few out there. You're talking your Gibson Hammonds from Nottingham Forest and stuff like that. But for me, I feel like you can play the wing play. You know, if he goes with the 4-4-2 diamond against Wimbledon on Saturday, I do think we'll lose by a couple of goals. And it's not me slating the new grit and determination mentality to see games out and never give up. It's me saying you're being too cautious. You know, try your wing play your 4-3-3. Try the wing play that you want to play when your injured players come back. Play Rowe or Kalea or Seaman or Kyle Hurst. When he came on, he did better than most players on the pitch. So for me, play the wing play, but utilise what you've got at your disposal. Then the players will start coming back. Molyneux's hopefully back for Stockport. Try the wing play for Wimbledon, and then when you bring Molyneux in on the right and have Hurst on the left, hopefully for Stockport, you'd be able to utilise a better wing play. But as long as you test it out and try it first before you improve on that the following game, you've got a chance. You've got a real chance. Whether that's Andrews up front, Miller up front, Agard up front, whoever up front. Utilise the wing play. That was one of the biggest mistakes that we did on Tuesday night, not utilising the wings enough. And Lincoln were just happy to play it along, play the nice movements, bomb forward, and break down our attack. And our defence, again, looked very shaky. You know, could Mitchell have done something for the 3 goals he conceded? Not really a lot, to be perfectly honest. Still conceded 3 goals, so he doesn't get above a 7 rating for me overall when we get to the player ratings. But, you know, even though he conceded 3 goals, he wasn't really at fault for all 3 of them. The second goal was Andrew's mistake. Lost the ball so easily. Half-line run from I think it was Teddy Bishop. Or anyway, the Lincoln player bombing forward from nearly the halfway line, and the goal goes in. First goal, marking, awful. Third goal, marking, awful. The defensive marking, especially on the first goal. The third goal, yes, it's terrible marking. The first goal, I watch it back again and again and again and again. Where is the tenacity in that defence? Why isn't Adam Long and I think it was Roshan Williams at centre-back at that point, because Olo went off. I could be wrong, though. But although we were one of the two, it's been a couple of days. But the centre-backs, why is there no tenaciousness in that defending? Literally, as the ball went in, one of the defenders just stuck a leg out like, You know, where's the tenacity? If you're going to stick a leg out, stick your leg out. Stick it out full stretch. Risk yourself. Be dangerous. Put some balls in. That little leg out as the ball went in seemed to me like someone who was just being cautious. Oh, I want to stretch my leg, but I don't want to stretch it too much. Stretch it! The surface is good. The surface is playable. Stretch it. You're not going to slip like Ollie Younger in training. Stick it out. And then, like I said, the third goal, the marking was awful. The second goal, Andrews has got to take responsibility for that. For a 6'5" lad, that strength to hold on to the ball and not lose it was weak. So weak. And the player just bombs up the halfway, from the halfway line. Bang. 2-0. It was a good run. Don't give anything away from Lincoln, but the way we lost the ball in the first place, and that's one of the biggest weaknesses from Tuesday night. The way we take care when we're on the ball. If we are going to play tiki-taka football with fluid attacking movements, utilising the wing play, if that's the style McSheffrey has to go for, he seriously has to start implementing it on Saturday. Play the football we saw for most of pre-season, or what's the point? Again, you've got the winger. They might not be the best winger options, but you've got the options. Molyneux, Kulea, Hurst, who's the best out of the bunch. Kulea, who's a young guy. Molyneux back for Stockport. Seaman, you know, showed something in that game to give him to warrant a selection headache. Tommy Rowe, again, experience. Get him bombing down that left wing, and you see the difference. You see the difference. And for me, it's got to come from somewhere. The creative spark has got to come from somewhere. But I go back to that point of taking care when we're on the flaming ball. I saw barely any of that. I saw passes going nowhere. I saw passes to the opposition. I saw weakness. There was moments where I saw little fight. And that's got to come from the players, and that's got to come from the manager as well. The manager tells the players what he wants them to do. The players go and do the job. If the players aren't doing the job, that's their fault. If the manager's tactics aren't suiting the players, yes, there is hurdles because of that for some reason. But if you have the option to do it and you don't do it, again, that is poor from the manager. One of the bright sparks from Tuesday night was Jack Goodman making his debut, and I thought he looked pretty good, actually. I thought when he came on, he looked up for it, he looked lively, he looked up for me. So it was good to see him get a debut, but we can't just be one of those clubs that just gives people debuts just because we're 3-0 down. For me, it was great to see his debut, don't get me wrong, but it ruined it with the circumstance of the fact that we were 3-0 down. Now, one big thing that was a massive talking point on social media was the fans. And not just any fans, the fans from the South Stand. I was in the West Stand during the match. I was sat with my mates Dylan and Joe and Zach and Kean from the vlogs. And, well, from the vlogs from last season. They're in the fan cams this season. Go and check them out. And we sat and we watched what was happening in that South Stand. We saw the pitch invaders. By the way, if you're watching this, you're an embarrassment to this club. Get away. He lost his shirt chance. There was reports of bras going over the top and t-shirts going over the top and being hard to reach, and oh god, it's the reason why I'm speaking about this now is because it's stupid, silly chants. Not the ones that support the club, you know, the McSheffrey in the dugout and Steve Eyre to his right, you know, ones like that, Rovers till I die, we love you Rovers, we do, just can't get enough. All those chants are fine. I love those chants. They're the ones I love to do, and I sing along to them as well. You know, I love singing along to I just can't get enough, I just can't get enough. But the silly ones that I saw in the South Stand and heard of the South Stand last night, on Tuesday night, he lost his shirt, people throwing the t-shirts and bras. We were hearing reports of under 16s throwing their t-shirts and bras out of reach. And it's like, first of all, you're under 16. That's irresponsible, first of all. Secondly, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Are you just here for a piss-up and a laugh? This is Doncaster Rovers Football Club. Get behind... If you're there in the stands... And there were some, it's not every single person in the South Stand. There was people in that South Stand that just watched the match and were behaving. There were people in the South Stand that weren't behaving, and I'm sorry to each and every one of you fans if you think I'm directing this at you. I'm not. I'm directing it at the two pitch invaders. I'm directing it to the he's lost his shirt people. I'm directing it to the people that threw their t-shirts and bras and all ridiculousness up in the stands. I'm directing it to them that embarrassed our club on Tuesday night. I'm talking to the people who started trouble after the match. Because, don't get me wrong, Rovers put out a statement. They listed everything that was going on. Everything. Everything. The trouble with the stewards after the pitch invaders went off the pitch. I saw a bit of a scuffle. I don't know what that was about. But, again, and, you know, people, if you've got your own stories about what happened in the South Stand, if you're in the South Stand, what did you hear? What did you see? Comment down below, message me privately, get in touch, because I want to hear it from them, the people that were in the South Stand that night, on that night. There was a bit of trouble outside as well, I heard. There was apparently trouble outside. But it's not all down to the fans. It's not all down to them. The embarrassment is from them, but the stewarding needs to be a hell of a lot better, for me personally. I saw the two pitch invaders run across the pitch, and it looked like the stewards didn't even bother chasing them. And it's like, if you're there to do a job, do it properly. No disrespect, you're nice people and all that, but do your jobs properly, for God's sake. If there's a pitch invader on the flaming pitch, tackle him down. Tackle him, lift him up, and get him out the stadium as quick as possible. Don't just do a silly little, oh, he's run past me. Oh, he's run past me. Oh, he's run that side. Oh, he's done a leapfrog and bloody somersaulted over the top of me. Whatever. Do your jobs properly. Don't just do a little side grab. Tackle him. Get him up and get him off the pitch. The pitch invaders are probably going to get banned. Good. Because, you know, we're trying to cancel that out of the game. After the incidents, you know, from last season, you know, the incidents of Nottingham Forest with, I think it was Swansea. Yeah, just overall, I think everything just didn't go our way that night. From fans to performance to tactics to the goals we let in to everything like that. And to be fair, let me just give a mention, shall we? I did see after the Lincoln, I think it was the first goal, I did see some kind of smoke coming from the Lincoln end, the away end. I don't know if that was a pyrotechnic from them or what. It looked like smoke from a pyrotechnic from them, and if that's the case, then security should be doing a hell of a lot better than that. You know, if they're hiding it in clever places, the security needs to be smarter. That's just my opinion anyway. But no, nothing really went on that slight. And like I said, if you were in that South Stand and you think I'm directing this at you and you behaved yourselves, then I'm not directing it at you. You were the good ones, and I'm sorry that you got dragged into all this. But the ones that were embarrassing themselves, you should be ashamed. Really, really ashamed. And I'm not saying don't enjoy yourselves. I'm saying enjoy yourselves, but don't do anything that might put this club at risk for being a laughingstock or more of a laughingstock than it already is. You know, that's just my personal take on the whole thing. I'm all up for singing along to We Love You Rovers We Do, Rovers Till We Die, Mick Sheffrey in the dugout and Steve Eyre to his right. All those songs, the Rovers-based songs, love it. Love it, love it, love it. But he's lost his shirt. I think the Black Bank put a statement out afterwards, and like there was mention of 10 German bombers, and I'm like, what? First of all, if you sung that on the night, it's embarrassing enough and you should be ashamed. It's disgusting. Secondly, if they're just talking about chants in general over the last couple of years that we're seeing at the top of that South Stand, it's embarrassing enough. It's disgusting enough. But just what they mentioned in their statement and what was heard and seen on the South Stand on that night and before that, you know, there was chance of we're effing SHIT, you know, and last season I was culpable of saying that, you know, I did say that last season a few times, but, you know, I hold my hands up to that one, you know, last season I was angry, I was fuming, I let my whole emotions show, If you've heard me sing it in the vlogs last season, I apologise. I really, really do, because that doesn't help player morale. That doesn't help team morale. But no, overall, just not a great night at all. So let's get into the player ratings from this particular match. So I'm going to start with Jonathan Mitchell. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. Again, he wasn't really at fault for the goals, to be honest. But when you can see 3 goals, you don't get above. You don't get 6 or above. You don't get above a 6. James Maxwell 6. I think he tried his best. I think he does want to be here. He does want to give his all for the club, but you know, there's only so much you can do in the position that you're in. Joseph Olowu 6. Looks like he's going to be missing for Saturday, which again is not fantastic. I can see McSheffrey trying to take this seriously, but when it risks first team players, you kind of question it, to be honest. Adam Long 5. Some of the mistakes were laughable. I just think Long is not ready at the moment for first team football. He needs those Papa John's Trophy games just to give him some minutes. But for me, he just needs a lot of time. Carl Noyle 6. I think just you can only do the best you can do in the situation. I think he was better than Sutton, personally, but obviously the team performance wasn't as good as Sutton. And that's saying something. Adam Clayton 6. I think again he marshalled the midfield decently. I think not too bad. Harrison Biggins 5. I think again his work rate was better, but again his ability just needs that little step up improvement. Liam Ravenhill 5. I don't really think I noticed him a few times in that match. I think he felt a little bit distant in the match and quite ghosty in the match. So hopefully that'll improve. He is still a kid. He still needs to learn. But yeah, I still believe Liam Ravenhill will come good in the end. Lee Tomlin, very, very low 6, and that's just above the 6 mark. Again, just made mistakes. He did bomb forward a couple of times, which was decent movements that could have elapsed something. But for me, again, he still made a couple of mistakes, and he did walk in places in the match. So for me, you know, he still needs to step it up a bit. Josh Andrews 5. I think again, like I said, without the wingers, he just doesn't work with the type of forward that he is. Kieran Agard 5. Again, I just think, you know, I trust him to start, you know, after what he did against Sutton off the bench, but he just didn't really show enough for me to warrant a starting place on Saturday. Into the substitutes then, we used 5 substitutes: Roshan Williams, Charlie Seaman, Carl Hurst, Tavonga Kulea and Jack Goodman. Williams 5, I think that's a fair result, an average result. He was just okay. He was partly to blame for at least one of the goals, so for me, I think he just again needs to shore it up at the back. But the other substitutes get 6s. Seaman looked up for it, Hurst looked up for it, Kulea looked up for it, Goodman looked up for it, and for me that's again decent enough for the situation that you're in. So that is the player ratings. Now let's have a look ahead to our next league game with the Carabao Cup fresh out of our minds until next season. Let's have a look at the next league game, and here's the history of AFC Wimbledon. The ensuing years were owned by AFC Wimbledon and nobody could take them away. They first moved to the legendary home Plough Lane in 1912. They won the coveted FA Amateur Cup in 1963 and elected into the Football League in 1977 after winning a hat-trick of Southern League titles. They won the FA Cup in 1988 with a famous 1-0 triumph over Liverpool at Wembley, giving birth to the infamous Crazy Gang, and they made the Womble their official club mascot. They were one of the founding members of the Premier League in 1992, where they stayed for 8 consecutive seasons and produced some of the most famous players of that era. But behind the triumphs were the disasters, and they owned them as well. They lost their original Plough Lane Stadium, callously sold behind their backs for redevelopment by former owner, forced a ground share at Crystal Palace's Selhurst Park, where they spent all the Premier League years. The cruelest moment of all was to follow when they were sold and moved away, seemingly erased from the Wimbledon landscape. In 2002, the Wimbledon Football Club they knew and loved ceased to exist, snatched away in the community from the community and the fans, the club was shamefully allowed by the FA Commission to be airlifted into another town 70 miles away, where it carried on under a different owner and different supporters. The Commission even underlined the disgraceful decision with an ominous warning. Launching a new club to replace the one that had been stolen from them would not be in the wider interests of football, unquote. Undeterred, 4 of the fans, let's name them because they are heroes, refused to be beaten. Ivor Heller, Chris Stewart, Mark Jones and Trevor Williams contacted the London FA and relaunched the club under the new name AFC Wimbledon. They were consigned to the Combined Counties League, 5 divisions below the Professional Football League, and they started all over again. Only there was a fundamental and profound difference. They were owned by the supporters in the shape of the Dons Trust, with an executive board elected by the fans. Never again would they be at the mercy of private owners with their own agendas. This was another profound difference alongside it, and that the entire history of Wimbledon Football Club remained as Wimbledon's. When the paperwork was drawn up for a new reincarnation, the date of birth didn't say 2002, it said 1889, when the predecessors played their first games on Wimbledon Common. But the heart and soul that existed in the old club was alive and kicking in the new one. Promotion full of promotion as they rose up the football pyramid, and within 9 years they were back in the Football League after dramatically beating favourites Luton Town on penalties in 2011 playoff final. On November the 3rd, 2020, Wimbledon played their first game at the new Plough Lane, a 2-2 draw with yours truly, Doncaster Rovers. The last time they played a league game at Plough Lane was back in 1991 in the old First Division against Crystal Palace. There was a cruel twist of fate that cast a large shadow over such a momentous occasion. COVID had struck, the country was in the middle of a nationwide lockdown, and fans everywhere were banned from attending football matches. The teams were playing in an empty stadium with only cardboard cutouts of the fans perched in their seats, a reminder at least of the very people who had made the moment possible. Instead of raptures, the atmosphere felt anticlimactic, eerie and even surreal. It wasn't until how they should have been, and it wasn't until the 14th of August 2021 that Wimbledon fans were allowed to see a Plough Lane game for the first time, to see a competitive League One game in the stadium they had helped build. Now Wimbledon are under the management of Johnny Jackson, the former Charlton Athletic player and caretaker and permanent manager, and it should be interesting to see how the Johnny Jackson revolution continues this season. So welcome to the interview section of the Matchday Launch Show here on the CHALL. Of course, this week's opponent is AFC Wimbledon in the League 2 division, and I'm here with George from the 9 Years podcast. George, how are you?
I'm great, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I saw you guys were seen on social media as well. I will be there at Plough Lane inside that studio for their pre-game show as well, so stay tuned for that over on AFC Wimbledon's YouTube channel. So it's really good to get to be on there this time. It was a shame that I missed out on it last year, but great to be on there this year. Let's start off then with AFC Wimbledon, because obviously we've gone about the history in the show already, but the present day, Johnny Jackson's the new manager. What have you made from the first few games of Johnny Jackson's reign?
I think it's been it's been a stark contrast to what we had last year. We look a lot more solid defensively, which, as we know from the games between our sides last year, wasn't always our strength, I think it's fair to say. But bringing in Alex Pearce and Chris Gunter to strengthen that back line, adding that valuable experience, really has strengthened us at the back. We haven't conceded a league goal this year, which again puts us in good stead. So cautious optimism, I think, is a fair word at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, obviously, best of luck to AFC Wimbledon for the season, apart from tomorrow, of course. Now, in terms of Wimbledon as to where they're at as a club, I mean, where do you think Wimbledon are in terms of progression long term? Do you think that they'll be back in League One no time at all? Do you think it could go further than that with AFC Wimbledon? I mean, where do you think Wimbledon will go going forward?
Yeah, I think we're in a rebuilding stage. Obviously, any club that has a relegation is going to have to go through that rebuilding phase. But our ownership model, obviously being fan-owned, it means it is a longer process because we don't have somebody who's going to come in, pump in a lot of money to get straight back up. So it's going to be a slower turnaround. I think this year just sort of stabilising, top half of mid-table, sort of 12 to 10 sort of area, I think is what we're hoping for realistically, or certainly achievable. And then next year making a run to get into the playoffs. Beyond that, I think League One is our ceiling with the fan ownership model. But I don't have any complaints about that because I think that's the perfect level, to be honest, in the current structure of the English pyramid.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, obviously, looking back on last season, I mean, obviously it wasn't a great season. I believe it was, what the first relegation or one of the first relegations for AFC Wimbledon under that fan ownership. So what do you think went wrong last season? What kind of slipped it up for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was our first relegation since we reformed and became fan-owned in 2002, so a lot of people, you know, it was a new experience to people my age, my generation. We'd never experienced that as supporters before or as owners before. I think where we went wrong, I think there was a lack of investment. Mark Robinson, the manager at the start of last season, wasn't given the budget he deserved and needed to make us a valiant attempt to stay up. We started the season well, then obviously we sold Ollie Palmer to Wrexham in January, who was our only recognised striker. And we just didn't get a high-quality replacement, and then 27 games without winning from mid-December through to the end of the season. You don't survive that run no matter what you do, which is unfortunate. Lack of leadership and experience. But a lot of things went wrong, and some of them are starting to be fixed.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully they are being fixed sooner rather than later over at Plough Lane. I mean, obviously you've had your CARABAO Cup match, and obviously you've also had your second league game of the season this past week or so. So how would you look back on those two results and the way you played?
Well, the way we play, it's very much looking to draw teams in, trying to force the teams into pressing us and then going over the top, try and get runners in behind, playing off the number 9, getting flick-ons and basically playing for channels. First game of the season was against Gillingham, very good, dominant win there. Then we went to Hartlepool, more cautious approach, but we were still by far the best team, got a 0-0, which again at Hartlepool, getting away with a point. That's a fair result. They got destroyed the week before, so they were out to just not concede. We struggled to break them down, to be honest, but we created a few chances and were probably unlucky not to win. And then Carabao Cup, we played Gillingham again. Better team, had about 80% possession, had about 7 times as many shots. Then they scored in the 89th minute and then scored again in extra time to win 2-0. Just an unfortunate result there, but I think good start to the season for us, good performances. But it's after the way we ended last year, it's important to have a quick turnaround because we had a loss on Tuesday. We lose against you guys, then we've got Mansfield Tuesday night. And when you're coming off the back of 27 games without a win, you lose 2-3 in a row and pressure starts to build quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally then, when you look at Doncaster Rovers, what are you sort of expecting from the game tomorrow, and what kind of scoreline are you predicting for this one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game. Obviously, it's the second relegated side we've faced after we've already played Gillingham this year, so it's always interesting to see how these teams compare with each other. I know you guys have done quite well in the summer. I think your recruitment's been reasonably well done. It's going to be a tough game. I think Wimbledon should win. I think we should be holding on for a 2-1 win. But it's going to be an interesting one. We had tight games with you guys last year. It's all a bit up in the air at this stage of the season. I know you guys have had some really solid results to start. You're always obviously beating Sutton, and then the bizarre draw at Bradford. So I think it's going to be an interesting one, and it'll be interesting to see how the teams balance out.
Yeah, absolutely. George, thank you very, very much for coming on the show, and I can't wait to see you at Plough Lane in the studio tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, and let's go on to the next section of the Matchday Launch Show, which is our predictions for Match Week 3 in Sky Bet League 2. So first up, Bradford City host Newport County, and I think this will be a very interesting game. Bradford not having the best of starts, Newport holding on to a draw on the opening day. For me, I think this could be the game where Bradford finally kicks on, so I'm going to go with a 2-0 Bradford win. Next up, Carlisle hosts Swindon Town, and Carlisle, of course, under Paul Robinson, trying to get back to their best times in that division, League 2. But Swindon under Scott Lindsay will want to keep going as well. So it's going to be very interesting again with this one. I'm actually going to go for a 1-1 draw on this occasion. Next up, Harrogate Town hosts Crawley Town, and the Battle of the Town, shall we say. Now, Harrogate won 1 and lost 1, both by 3-0, while Crawley haven't made the best of starts. So I think this could go either way, but I'm going to switch it to a Harrogate win. by 1-0. Crawley will need to get themselves up and running soon. Next up, Leyton Orient host Mansfield. Arguably, for me, one of Leyton Orient's toughest opponents of the season. And I think Mansfield could just do it, you know. I'm going to go with a 2-1 Mansfield win. Next up, Northampton host Hartlepool. And Northampton hosting them at Sixfields. Northampton having the better start of the two clubs. And I think that will continue in the scoreline. Northampton 2, Hartlepool United 0. Next up, Rochdale versus Grimsby. And beware, Rochdale fans, I generally think this could be a Grimsby win all over it. I just think Grimsby, even though it's not been as better start as other clubs, I still think they're going to keep going, and I think that Grimsby are going to get a nice win here. By the way, Rochdale fans, stay tuned for the September 30th edition of the show. We've got a very special guest. I've been teasing it on social media the past few weeks, and stay tuned for an announcement for a few more clues as to who that might be. But stay tuned for that ahead of our game on the 1st of October. But on this occasion, I'm going to go with Rochdale 1, Grimsby Town 2. Next up, Salford host Crewe, and Salford again under Neil Wood. Again, it should be interesting to see what happens. Crewe have had a great start to the season so far, and I think that will continue. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win for Crewe. Next up, Stockport host Colchester, and Stockport have to get off the ground at some point, so I'm going to go with this being the day. Stockport are going to win by 2-1. Next up, Sutton Barrow, and Sutton have got a 1-1 draw and a 2-1 narrow defeat that they should have got something from to their name in the league. Barrow have had a great start, especially the win against Bradford in added time. A very, very late winner, breaking the Bantams' hearts in that game. For me, I think this could be one of the toughest tests for Barrow. You're coming up against a side that, for me, feels like a side that will definitely smash and grab and try and nick a goal or two on the break. So for me, I think this will be a real battle, but I'm going to go with a Sutton United Barrow draw 0-0. I don't think there'll be goals in this game. Next up, Tranmere host Gillingham, and again, I feel like this could be a very interesting game. Tranmere need to get off to a better start. Gillingham definitely getting off to an okay start, a decent start. So for me, I'm going to go with a Gillingham win, 2-0. Tranmere need to get their act together. And finally, Walsall hosts Stevenage. Now, Walsall for me, with that 4-0 win on the opening day, Stevenage getting wins as well. For me, I think this will be a very interesting one, but I'm actually going to go with a 2-2 draw here. I think they're going to be very evenly matched. That is the match week 3 predictions for Sky Bet League 2, but there's one game we have missed out. Doncaster Rovers travelling to AFC Wimbledon. So before we can predict the scores, we have to predict the lineup, and I've gone with a very interesting one here. I've gone with Jonathan Mitchell in goal. Obviously, number 1 makes sense. I have gone with a back 4 of Maxwell, Anderson, Faulkner and Noyle. Now, the reason why I've gone with Faulkner and Anderson, I think Anderson will be fit to start this game. I want to see him back on the pitch. I want to see what he can do. Now, the reason why I've gone with Bobby Faulkner, and there might be a few people in the comments now saying, what in the world do you think? Williams has made his mistakes, so he's done great in the Bradford game, but Sutton, marking error, the cup, errors made again. Olawu's out for the game probably, more than likely. I don't think Long's there yet to start. You could argue that for Faulkner, but I think Faulkner offers you a no-nonsense attitude. And I think if you pair him up with Tom Anderson, you get a no-nonsense partnership. So for me, that's the best kind of defence we can have. And also, don't forget, Maxwell and Noyle either side, the best full-backs we've got available right now. I've gone with a midfield 3 of Adam Clayton, Harrison Biggins, and Liam Ravenhill. I was deciding between him and Tomlin, but I think that's the way we're going to have to go. I think Clayton, Biggins and Ravenhill. I think Biggins brings the work rate, Ravenhill brings the strength in tackles, Clayton brings the playmaking side of it from the back. And, you know, if we need to play the route 1 over the top into the box or play it onto a striker off the shoulder, that's the only time for me we should be playing route 1. But do they listen to me? Probably not. But I'm still holding out for hope we'll play better football at some point. But there we go. But yeah, Clayton, Biggins and Ravenhill will be my midfield 3. And finally, as a front three, I've gone with Kyle Hurst on the right, Tommy Leroy on the left, and George Miller back from fitness up front. So for me, I would like to see Miller, Rowe, and Hurst. That connection as a front three in a 4-3-3 formation, utilising the wing play, utilising it to its full potential, playing the fluid football that we saw for most of pre-season. And for me, that's the best style of football we can play. Even with the injuries that we've got that are not back yet, we can still play that football. So let's get into our scoreline prediction for this particular game. So there we go. That's your lineup prediction. Now it's time for my scoreline prediction. And for me, again, it's a very difficult one. Wimbledon will want to battle. Wimbledon will want to get something out of this game. For me, I feel like this could be a very interesting situation ahead of the match. I think for me, personally, if you want me to be brutally honest, if we're going to play the same style of football that we've played the last few games, I could only see us getting a draw out of it at best. So I'm going to be bold. I'm going to predict a 1-1 draw. I don't think we're going to get a win out of it if we play the style of football that we're playing. If we play the football that I've suggested and the fans have suggested since pre-season, then I think we'll win that game by 2-1 maybe. I think we'll still concede because our defence has started to look shaky the last couple of games. But I think it'll be a much bigger test than some people may think. You know, they were relegated with us, so it's going to be a very, very tough test. But I'll tell you something now, if we get beat 2-3-0 and play awful football again, even with the players that we've got available, I wouldn't start questioning. Well, I can question McSheffrey and certain players, but again, it's a tough situation. I've got to wait until Molyneux come back, Close comes back, Taylor comes back. I've got to wait until these players come back just to see what happens with the players we've got available. But yeah, it's one of those things. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. Comment down below what you guys think. But that is it for the Matchday Launch Show. Sorry there isn't a guest for this week's show. I did try and get in contact with Mark Robinson, the former Wimbledon manager from last season, and he's very busy with his job at Chelsea, so understandable. Best wishes to you, Mark Robinson, and hopefully we'll get you on the show in the future. There is some other people that were available, but we're busy as well. So again, I reached out to a few different people for the show. To be fair, I reached out to Mark Robinson, the Don's Trust, 9 Years Podcast, you know, all these different people, all these different groups and that around Wimbledon. So, you know, it'd be great to try and maybe get one of them on the next show for the Stockport game, but there we go. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. Make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, and for now, I'm Aaron Challoner, a.k.a. the CHALL, your usual sporting journalist, and that is full-time Rovers till I die.